Hello everyone, I'm ShadowRock, and today we're going to be talking about the Mega Man Timelines number 0 that came out on Free Comic Book Day yesterday as we're recording this. And to help me talk about it, I have OneOneTwo here. So since this is your first time on the channel, I think, OneOneTwo, do you want to introduce yourself to the viewers?
Sure thing. Hi, I'm OneOneTwo. I am a moderator of the R Mega Man subreddit, and I'm very active on both the Discord and the subreddit. And I love talking about the series.
Heck yeah. So, get into things. Let's just start off with our experiences with Free Comic Book Day, because a lot of us had to go to our local comic book store to pick this up. What was your experiences there?
So the comic book store that I went to is pretty close by to where I live. I honestly just walked over there, and I was not expecting it to be that busy. It was completely packed. There were people everywhere picking up any of the free books that were on sale. One thing that I was also not expecting was we were actually able to choose more than one. I thought it'd be, one per customer or whatever, but the rules were 5 comics, no duplicates, so I actually ended up picking up more than Mega Man. I also got the Rival Schools Street Fighter crossover comic. I got one that was based on Gargoyles, the Disney property, and then I got a Star Wars one. I didn't see anything that I was interested in for the 5th one. But I saw a lot of people there. I don't think that many people picked up the Mega Man comic, unfortunately. But a lot of people were picking up a lot of comics, so it was a little bit difficult to tell. But it was really cool seeing everyone interact and mingle about Free Comic Book Day. There was someone in a Chun-Li cosplay, which was very, very cool. Props to them if they happen to watch this.
That's cool.
But yeah, I had a great time, and it was pretty easy to get a free Mega Man one, honestly. I don't want to say they were overstocked, but there were definitely enough that it wasn't a huge concern to get one.
I'm glad you had a good time there. For me, my comic book store we went to was about 10 miles away. It wasn't close, unfortunately. But when I got there, so this comic book store is half a comic book store, but also half a tabletop gaming and a miniature gaming store. So most of it was dedicated to the tabletop gaming stuff. But the front, there was a long line checking out stuff. But then there was another long line going into this separate room out in the back. And that's where they had most of the free comic books. I was going to stand in line, but then I was informed that actually the Mega Man stuff, or that Mega Man book I should say, is actually out in that gaming area along with all the other kids books, just out in the open, no line. I just walked over there and got it. There was maybe a stack of maybe 10, probably 20 comics, so it was a good amount. I don't know if I was one of the first people to get a comic, but it seemed that way. So there was still a lot left.
That's interesting. I went about an hour after opening, and there were, I want to say also about 20 left.
Yeah, that sounds about right. And I got there within maybe 30 minutes of the store opening, so it was still pretty early. Hopefully they did get rid of their stock at the end of the day, because we need more Mega Bros. But my wife did say she saw a nerdy looking kid picking up the book. It's oh, that's awesome. And then I overheard a mother saying, okay kids, we have Mega Man, Iron Man, this kitty book, which one do you guys want? And obviously the kids picked up the kitty book and one picked up the Iron Man book. I'm oh, come on, not Mega Man. Because the mother was telling them you can only have one copy. Oh man.
That's unfortunate. I think I saw a few people get the Mega Man comic book, but it wasn't as many as a lot of the other ones. So I don't know whether to be concerned about how that's going to go for the other Mega Man timelines, but then again, it is going to be different when you have to pay for it. So who knows?
Yep. Definitely have to see how things go, but as for the comic itself, I'm sure you yourself have heard that there's been some positive reviews for the actual book.
Admittedly, I haven't actually seen a lot of like online discussion about it quite yet. There were a few comments about it on the subreddit and the Discord, but people did usually when it was discussed, it was pretty positive for the most part.
That's good. That's good. So as for us two, what do you think about it overall?
I thought it was a fun short story at the end of the day. It didn't really do anything that drastic. I guess slight spoilers. There was one moment that was very funny that I definitely laughed out loud while I was reading. Because it was the three robot masters, Coldman, what was it? Coldman, Skullman, and Windman telling stories at an amusement park. When Skullman was telling his story, the fact that rolled through like a spicy bit of pizza in Skullman's face was hilarious.
Yeah, that was great. Yeah, so overall, this comic, from what I've been told, is more of a comedic for fun story, just to get you warmed up. But whenever the paid timelines comics come down the line, that's when they're going to get into the more serious and cool stuff. So definitely don't take the free comic book as a representation of the tone of the rest of the series. It's supposed to be different as we go along.
That makes sense. I definitely don't think there was anything super serious here, but if they do intersperse comedic bits throughout the other comics, and the comedic moments are like this one, I have a lot of optimism because the comedic bits were pretty funny. The writers did a very good job here.
I agree. I don't think they were too heavy-handed. Like, you have Windman cracking puns and things like that, even Coldman. But overall, it was handled pretty well, like within the spirit of what we know about the Mega Man series up to this point.
I agree, and I did like the references they did have though. Like they had a decent amount of the regular robots, the regular enemies that were also attacking Mega Man. I definitely laughed when Skullman was introducing all the Skull Joes that were sort of pinning Mega Man down to the ground. That was pretty funny. Or there were a lot of cameos in the beginning as well in the amusement park. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, the amusement park itself, I guess it's mostly based on Bounceman Stage, since they literally say it's a Boing Boing amusement park. But on the cover, there's some Clownman Stage elements too, like the Angry Train shutter. So it's interesting.
It definitely feels like a combination of both 8 and 11. Because, yeah, I agree. When I read it was Boing Boing Park, I immediately thought, okay, so this is just Bounce Man's indoor, fitness amusement park. But then the cover was closer to Clown Man Stage, and I was a little confused, but it being a hybrid makes sense. I do want to point out one very specific reference that I caught. This was not me pointing this out. I originally found a comment about this on the Discord. I think it was actually Rockman HQ pointed out that one of the like background characters very much looks like an NPC from Battle Network.
I caught that
cool.
too. Like when Coleman is handing him the ice cream. Yeah, I was like, dude, is that a Battle Network NPC? What the heck?
all kudos to Rockman HQ. I didn't catch that until he mentioned it, and I reread the page. But that's a really cool reference. And it wasn't like in your face either. You had to look for it.
Yeah, if I knew he was reading the comics too, I would have invited him on. But maybe next time.
Yep.
Oh,
sorry.
That was funny that basically the story starts with the three robot masters. They have their own food stand. So Windman has ramen, Coleman has ice cream, and Skullman is just over here like, yeah, I'm just gonna burn things. I like bones, okay? Don't hate me.
The Robo review being what was that? 5 1-ups for Windman and 3 1-ups for Coldman was very funny. And then Skullman is so bad at this that he gets a wily face. That's unfortunate.
Yeah, that was cute. I like that.
And then each of them sort of tell a little short story about when they were battling Mega Man. I presume that this took place during the games themselves, like during Mega Man's 6, I guess it'd be 6 and base and 4, because it definitely felt like it was like sort of a flashback. Although I don't remember Skullman's stage looking like that, so perhaps Skullman's was a little bit later.
I was thinking about that too, because it didn't look like they were within their original game stages. It looked like maybe this was a separate encounter, like at a different time. It's interesting. Because
Honestly,
later,
Skullman's story looked like it kind of took place also in Boing Boing, because there were a ton of like ball pits and other amusement park type things.
yeah, like inside of a theater. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's interesting. Windman at the end of the story says, like, I hope Mega Man understands that that battle changed the trajectory of my life for the better. So they're kind of talking like this did happen in the original games, but I'm not sure.
That's true. I don't really know. It's sort of up for debate, I suppose. Although I'm trying to remember, in the Archie comics, when did the Robot Masters defeat their reprogramming, so to speak? When did they go back to the original programming? Was that when Mega Man defeated them, or was that later?
So if you're referring to the Mega Man 1 Robot Masters, I assume.
Yeah.
So from what I remember, Mega Man went on this power streak, just defeating all of them, and then it was somewhere around like the beginning of Mega Man 2 when I guess they were rebuilt, and then they weren't reprogrammed anymore. They were just their normal selves.
That's interesting. So I guess this is taking a bit of a different direction, I suppose, because it doesn't look like they got destroyed in the battles, at least. Although I can't imagine getting hit by a Windman getting hit by Centaur Flash at the end there was very fun.
I feel like a bad Mega Man fan because I was trying to figure out what exactly that power was. It almost looked like acid burst from 11. I was like, that can't be right.
It was a bit of a, I don't want to say a weird, but an interesting interpretation of Centaur Flash. I mean, to be fair, I guess it's very difficult to like illustrate stopping time or like dimensionally warping. So I can understand that it'd be challenging to represent that, but that is definitely not what I imagine Centaur Flash looking like in 3D. I'll put it that way.
Definitely. What threw me off was all the particles around Mega Man. Almost looked like he was shooting projectiles at the same time.
I guess because you can shoot, you can use Centaur Flash and then shoot your, or I guess you can't shoot your Buster when you use Centaur Flash, but I guess that's sort of an interpretation of like dimensionally warping, and then that, of course, is the weakness of Windman in 6.
Yeah, that would have been Brightman's weapon, where you could shoot after firing it.
Right. Also, throwing ramen in Windman's turbine, that was clever. That was very clever.
I thought it was the turbine at first. Well, I guess it is, but it looks like the ball landed straight on his head, and that's why he's holding his head like, oh, it's a minor setback.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I thought it landed in the turbines as well, but it doesn't look like. It looks like it barely missed.
Oh, yeah, you're right. I guess it makes sense, though, since that would distract Windman long enough to hit him with Centaur Flash. They used the weapons very well, actually, just in this comic in general. I was very pleased with that.
Yeah, one thing I noticed throughout this comic too is, oh boy, Mega Man takes a beating from everybody.
That's true. Honestly, I was not expecting it. I mean, it's not graphic. It's like cartoon violence, but I was not expecting it to be that drastic, I guess is the best way to describe it. If this is what we're getting in just this issue alone, the Zero and ZX comics are going to be interesting, I'll put it that way, with the sort of level of detail on how broken some of these characters get.
Oh yeah, because so many panels here, and Mega Man just has like dirt on his face or battle damage and other things like that.
I definitely think the level of detail is higher when compared to some of the previous comics, even from UDON themselves. I definitely don't remember nearly this much detail from Mr. Mega Man.
Definitely.
And Cold Man's part was also pretty funny with all the penguins. I'm trying to remember, what was Cold Man's stage? Was it a zoo in Mega Man Abyss?
What was his stage?
Because that's what I remember. The Penguins were definitely enemies in Coldman's stage. I guess this is sort of also a little embarrassing for me, but like all of the enemies very much looked familiar, but I couldn't quite remember because I remember whatever it was frozen over, whatever the setting was, and then, but it looked like it could be Coldman's stage in general, and just before it got frozen over, and then obviously Coldman, you know, didn't have the chance to, I guess, in this comic interpretation. I also liked that Mega Man was stuck in place with the ice. That was a very nice touch.
Yeah, that was really cool. See, about Coleman, it seems like his lore was he was originally a refrigerator used to preserve prehistoric DNA from dinosaurs at absolute zero in Dr. Light's laboratory before being modified. I guess, maybe he was dealing with, like, preservation of animals. That's why he was there at the zoo.
Which, yeah, I was gonna say that does make sense for a zoo setting. So maybe it was his original stage. That's pretty cool. Before it got frozen.
Yeah, that just leaves what the heck Skullman's stage was about.
Yeah, I have no idea what that theater was. That looked completely different from anything else.
Yeah, definitely.
I also really liked that Coldman spawned I always mispronounce this enemy's name, the Moku Mokumos, the little like orb things. That was very cool. Because he even does that in the boss battle against Coldman and Mega Man and Base, and then to see that in the comic was great. If this is the level of detail we're getting here, it's gonna be unbelievable in the next few issues.
Yeah, that's true. They definitely did their homework on each of the Robot Master's abilities, and that's really nice.
Also, it's just like Coldman to get distracted by ice cream. That was funny.
Yeah, he seemed to have a little bit of a short-term memory loss there. It's like, what was I doing again? Oh, thanks for reminding me. I was supposed to be freezing the zoo.
Oh, okay, then yeah, it was a stage because he froze the zoo. That would make sense.
Yeah.
And then for Skullman, like I said, I like how he introduced all of the Joes, and also Roll was kidnapped again. That was interesting. Reminded me of Mega Man 2: The Power Fighters.
Yeah, at the beginning of this segment, he goes, "Sorry to interrupt your festivities, Mega Man." And it says happy birthday on a banner. It's like, is it Mega Man's birthday? But no, you find out it's Roll's birthday.
Is this the first time that we've ever seen like a birthday in the Mega Man series? Because I definitely can't remember. I mean, I think we know when Mega Man X was created, which I guess would, in robot terms, be a birthday, but I definitely don't remember any other game or form of media ever referencing like a robot's birthday.
Yeah, the only birthday I can think of it was like the fan birthday for Mega Man and Land from the Battle Network series.
Right.
So, yeah, that's a mystery to me.
And then of course, like I said, I really liked how Skullman used the skull barrier to block all of Mega Man's shots. Did not get to little sad not see Dust Crusher, I guess, but oh well, I guess he can't. I guess he can't always have the right weapon for the job. Although, like I said, honestly, Roll throwing a piece of pizza in Skullman's face was even better.
It seems like that was his actual weakness. Dun dun dun.
I hope someone turns that into a meme, that Skullman's real weakness is pizza, because that would be hilarious.
Yes. Yeah, Roll went ham with that pizza. Holy cow. And she's like holding one of the Joe's arms too.
Hey, if I were tied up and being hung from a string, I would be pretty mad too. I don't blame her.
And it just landed a ball pit. It's great.
And then, of course, we end on each of the three of them finishing up their story. Mega Man just crashes through Windman's ramen stand, rip to that. And then I really didn't expect Bounce Man to come out of nowhere. That was a surprise.
I think we should have, considering the stage, like the area they're in is definitely based on Bounce Man's stage to some degree. But yeah.
That's true. Yeah.
Bounce Man coming in like, oh boy, new playmate.
I guess, I mean, okay, so one of my because Mr. Mega Man is one of my favorite like pieces of media in all of Mega Man in general, like games, comics, media, anything. One of the things I was the most disappointed about with Mr. Mega Man was the fact that none of the Mega Man 11 Robot Masters showed up. So I didn't really know if they were going to do it for this one. That being said, when the cover came out and it only had the 11 Robot Masters on them, I was very pleased to see that that was not going to be an issue. And I was very, very pleased to see Bounce Man here, further confirming that the 11 Robot Masters will have some time in the spotlight just because they're so new.
Yeah, like, it seems like the story itself is Mega Man 11 era, but obviously all the flashbacks are probably their original games. We're not 100% sure on that. So one thing I did notice is in the flashbacks, Mega Man has his original design, but when you go back to the present, you see the lines on his body that indicates his Mega Man 11 design. I thought that was a nice touch.
Oh, I didn't even notice that. And, like, looking back on it now, because I have the comic right in front of me, that's so cool. That's a great attention to detail.
Yeah, I really like that. That Bounce Man looks so menacing.
That's true. That has to be the most menacing interpretation of Bounce Man I've ever seen.
Right?
Because he's so bouncy and playful in 11, and I wouldn't even say he's a hard boss. I mean, I think I usually fight him last in 11, but I think there's some people who even fight him first just because he's not that challenging. Although his stage can be a little difficult.
Definitely. Man, that just makes me wish that some of these older robots came back to help Mega Man and Mega Man 11. Like, you know, we see Skullman, Windman, and Coalman going up against Bounce Man on Mega Man's behalf. That was cool.
Oh man, yeah, and I've played some more fan games recently where they had that idea of like other Robot Masters helping during the stages. That was seeing that in sort of a comic form was very interesting and obviously more official.
Yeah, but overall, this was a really well done story. I like all the flashbacks. I like all the little humor sprinkled within. You know, it's not too much. It's just right, in my opinion. And overall, definitely looking forward to like what the actual Timelines books will provide. We do know that Classic Timelines #1 will have to do with the fire, so like a couple of fire robot masters. We don't know which ones just yet, but it may also be a post 11 story, at least based on the cover here, which has all the 11 robot masters on the stage select screen.
I do like how there's like a variant for each of the Timelines comics with like the stage select screen. That's a very nice touch.
Yep, that's definitely intentional. Basically, they're putting all the characters on the stage select screen, and it seems like it's gonna be tied into the actual story as well. Because from what Proto Man told me, he's the writer for X Timelines. I interviewed him, so if you haven't checked out that interview before, I'll put a link to it in the description below. But he said that cover A is the only cover that's actually representative of the story. The rest of the covers are just for fun. Don't really have anything to do with the story at all. So definitely based on these stage select screens, we can tell like, okay, this might be 11 era, and then we see the X Timelines comic that has the X1 robot, or the X1 Mavericks in the background. So that's definitely an X1 story, as we confirmed with Proto Man. So it's gonna be interesting to see how it all plays out. Do you have your own thoughts on what we might expect from future Timelines comics?
I honestly need to read the synopses because I haven't seen like the actual like sort of description around them yet. But I definitely would not. I definitely expect a post 11 story for classic Mega Man, which really excites me because because the game is newer comparatively. I've always found that a little disappointing that like a lot of the merchandise afterwards, or a lot of the comics and media afterwards, didn't really touch on the story between 10 or 11 or with 11 itself. There was that one shot, if I recall correctly, but otherwise, I felt like there's been sort of a lack of 11 stories since then. So I'm very excited to see the classic one tackle 11. As for the others, X1, I did listen to the interview, and X1 being a retelling, I'm curious to see where that goes, just because the X series has a lot of gaps to be filled in, and I think that would be a very good opportunity to do that. And especially like with Zero and ZX, there's a lot of stories that can be told. I seem to recall the Zero one being related to Zero 2. I really hope that it expands on some of the like audio drama stuff or stuff that's a little bit outside of the games themselves, just because there's a lot of stuff that's left unsaid in the games that is still very important. And same thing or similar thing with ZX.
Definitely. As Protoman said, that especially in the X series, I think benefits the most from a retelling because there's just so much there that could be expanded on and explained better than what the games themselves do.
For sure, just because the lore becomes a complete mess very quickly in X.
I know, right? Yeah, imagine if the comics continue and they actually address some of those confusions in the lore.
I really hope they do, just for that alone. It would make discussion of the X series a lot easier to understand, I guess, especially for newcomers, just because, you know, all the the series was supposed to end with X5, but then X6 came along, and then they had to rewrite a lot of a lot of the lore from X5 to make sense with the X6 story, and then it got even more confusing with 7 and 8, and obviously this is the cliffhanger. So I definitely hope that especially the X and the Zero ZX ones continue, just to see more of that story. And same with Legends, honestly, too. Do we even know what the Legends story is going to be like, or have they not even released a synopsis for that one yet?
Yeah, so when we have synopsises for Classic, X, and Zero, we're still waiting on the latter two.
I see. It makes sense, because those are further out. I think, if I remember correctly, it's one per month. So Classic would be May, X is June, Zero is July, ZX is August, and then Legends is September. So I guess a little bit closer to the release dates, I guess we'll see the synopses.
That is correct. And I'm definitely looking forward to the Legends story, because we've only gotten a couple games from Legends. I guess 4 at this rate, but still, it's not enough, man. We need more Legends, and it's pretty cool to see one of our own people we know in the community, David Oxford, actually working on the story. That's pretty neat.
Oh, I was so pleased to see that. Definitely, David, if you're watching this, congratulations again. That's such a huge honor.
Heck yeah.
Also for Legends, I also want to point out, because, I mean, we have classic manga, we have X series manga multiple times. I love the Iwamoto one especially. We have the Zero manga, which is not very good, but still. And then we have the ZX one, which admittedly I actually still haven't read. Have there ever been Legends, like, retellings like this? I actually think this might be the first, or at least the second or third, a lot less than the other ones.
For the Legends, it seems like it might be based on Legends 1.
Makes sense. I'm more asking, like, would this be the first time that there's been, like, Legends supplemental material, like a manga or a comic or something like that?
Good question. Only thing I'm thinking of is like that Legends art book / development art book that came out that was recently translated by the fans. That's all I can think of, as well as like strategy guides in Japan.
Ooh, that excites me even more, just because this might be like a prime opportunity to expand on the lore of that series, just because it goes so deep, especially in the second game. Although, as you said, probably would not be surprised if it starts with the first game, of course.
And I remember Zero and ZX got some stuff, but they were mostly like comedic mangas, if I remember correctly.
The Zero one is definitely very comedic, and I'm gonna be honest, it's not very good in my opinion. I do like the one joke about Omega being scared of zombies, and he says it's just like Resident Evil. That was like the one thing I remember from that comic. Otherwise, it's not great. There is a ZX one. Like, unfortunately, I just haven't read it yet. I probably should get around to that, especially with this coming out. But
yeah.
I don't remember if that's comedic or not.
I remember people saying like it has the same kind of tone as the Zero manga.
Ah, okay, that's good to know.
But yeah, Hopefully they don't go comedic with timelines. I would really like a serious story for once.
I also agree. And just because this is really one of the first opportunities in a while that we've gotten the ability to have stories like this just outside the games in general. So I look forward to, and definitely have a lot of optimism for how these stories are going to be written. But I just hope they don't squander it, I guess, just because it's, I don't know when the next time an opportunity like this will come up. I'm going to be honest, I'm still a little bit worried about the ZX one, especially with the art style. I do know that they addressed it a little bit. And even in the preview at the end of the number 0, it does look better, but that's probably the one I'm the most nervous about just in general in terms of quality.
Yeah, it seems like the artist they chose for ZX mostly does comedic comics for Marvel and things like that. So that's one reason why I'm worried that they may go the comedic route with ZX, and I would not like to see that, but if they do, hopefully it lands.
Agreed. And Dax Gordine, if you ever see this, I apologize. That is not a comment on your art. Just I guess it's more of the, as you said, the match between the style of the Mega Man ZX series and the tone of the comic and the artwork, if anything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, all these artists are super talented, so definitely it's not a slight against anyone's work. They're doing
That's true,
good job.
And especially I really liked Kenny Ruiz's art. I've seen his art elsewhere, and it's phenomenal. I very much am looking forward to the classic one, especially just in terms of the art.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, they look really nice. But I am hopeful for the future, especially when X is concerned, because Protoman shared in the interview that assuming these comics do well, and that's why I hope these one-shots all stick their landing, because with one-shots, you got one chance to impress. If you miss that boat, you're in trouble. So hopefully when these come out, like, people show up to support all these comics, because as Protoman has confirmed back in the interview, they do have plans to do more comics depending on like which ones actually sell. And
I agree. Hopefully they do well. And if you ask me to predict if they will all get future comics, I don't know if all of them will get it, but I certainly hope so.
Yeah, because we all know back in the community that the most popular series tend to be Classic and X, out of the Robot timeline. The rest, it really falls off deeply from there.
One thing that does make me a little hopeful, at least, is I forget exactly what the statistic was, but I know Zero ZX Legacy Collection, although it was the worst selling of the Legacy Collections, I think it actually did sell better than all of the Zero and ZX games, like just on an individual sales level. So that definitely gives me hope that there's like an unsatiated demand there for Zero and ZX comics, and we haven't even seen a potential Legends Legacy Collection yet. So Capcom doesn't even really know what the demand is there, and they could be very surprised for all we know. So I hope, especially with those three, just because they're a little bit more of an unknown, that we see good numbers for those.
Yeah, let's hope there's some demand there that we don't know about yet. That would be awesome. But yeah, Protoman did say that he's got a whole document full of ideas for future X comics at least. So let's hope these do very well and we get to see what they're cooking next.
That the fact that he said that he has a whole slew of ideas, because I remember that from the interview, that gives me a lot of hope, because especially it's a lot more difficult to write a good story if you're writing sort of by the seat of your pants. But if you're writing, like, if you're really planning it out that far in advance, that could make for a stellar story. And yeah. I hope that the other comics are in a similar position where the writers are sort of planning it out in advance just in case there are more, and hopefully there will be more, as opposed to just treating it like, the one comic is it.
Yeah. So for each of these writers, they're pretty much allowed to do whatever they want, as far as I'm aware, because the classic one seems to be an original story. But with X, Proto Man seems to be going for the retellings. And I think it's in a pretty good position there because the one-shot coming up is actually straight after X gets his butt handed to him by Vile. And he's going to go into Chill Penguin stage as the first stage in the game. So there's a lot of opportunity from there to just pick it up and go into the next stages from there as part of the full X series, and then he could eventually go back and cover the Central Highway at another time. So a pretty good position there if they do continue it.
I agree, and I remember he mentioned Maverick Hunter, Proto Man mentioned Maverick Hunter X in the interview, and one thing I loved from Maverick Hunter X was just the extra dialogue from all the characters themselves. We got to learn more about what they were about, and I've always wanted to see more of X and what he is like throughout, like sort of in between the games, or even in the games when, normally you'd be having gameplay where there wouldn't be dialogue. I'm really curious to see what the type of dialogue they put for X is, because he definitely is a lot less confident and has a lot more sort of anxiety earlier in the series versus later in the series, and they can do some very, very interesting character growth there with that.
Yeah, I think he's going to nail that pretty well because he talked about that a lot during the interview, that he picked up on X's doubt. He kept talking about the doubt, which is a big element in Maverick Hunter X, so I think we're going to see that on full display in the comic coming up.
Same, and that gives me a lot of optimism because that is absolutely a lot of what X's character is about, especially in the earlier games.
Definitely. Well, I think we should wrap it up here, but definitely pretty excited about the future of the Mega Man Timelines comics. I hope all of them stick the landing and they can do well so that we can see more in the future. Do you have any other thoughts you want to share with us before we end up?
I guess the sort of unrelated Mega Man Timelines, the Rival Schools X Street Fighter comic was also very good. And if there are any left over in like comic stores after Free Comic Book Day, definitely grab both of them because the Street Fighter X Rival Schools comic is also pretty entertaining. As for Mega Man Timelines itself, after reading this, I definitely have a lot more optimism with where this series is going to go. I wouldn't say I was pessimistic beforehand, but I was a little more on the fence. And after reading this, I thought, okay, this is gonna be pretty good at minimum, and probably great, especially for some of them like Classic and Classic X and Zero, especially, and Legends. I'm very, very much looking forward to. ZX, still a little apprehension, but I'm definitely going in with an open mind for all of them, and I'm looking forward to the future of this.
Heck yeah. Well, guys, I want to thank you all for watching. Of course, for ShadowRockZX, you can stay tuned for more on Mega Man in general, including when the rest of these comics come out. We'll definitely be doing more review discussions on them as they come out. Maybe we'll have 112 back, who knows. But 112, for now, do you want to tell everyone where they can find you at?
Sure thing. You can mostly find me on Discord or Reddit. I'm one of the moderators at rMegaman, so that's reddit.com/r/Megaman or discord.gg/Megaman. I also have a Blue Sky, which admittedly I probably should memorize the URL of that more often, but it's at 112.bsky.social if you want to follow me. I love talking about Mega Man, and just let me know if you join the server, especially in this video. I always love talking to more people about the series.
Amen to that. Alright guys, until the next one, rock on and have yourselves a wonderful time zone.